One Piece chapter 1177, okay? I didn't make a live stream because I've been pretty sick, but I'll do this chapter review properly still, okay? There's a lot of things to talk about in this chapter, and something that opened the door to a lot more speculation, okay? So I'll talk about all of that in this chapter, but let's start off by looking at this cover page. We got Robin planting flowers in a garden dug up by moles. It was a request by Mrs. Fuji, okay, whoever it is. Anyway, so we start off kind of exactly where the last one left off, like always, right? And I seen an interesting phrase, DDT Roads. Now, I don't know if this is some weird Viz Media translation of the, like, you know, the wrestling move, the DDT. I don't know. But we have a character saying the words DDT Roads out. Let me try to get it on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. I can't really get it on the screen. Okay. You see it in the corner, right? DDT Roads. I don't know what that means. Is that supposed to be a person? And is their name D? Because, like, you know, the D from Monkey D. Luffy from the Will of D. Is his first name D and the middle name DT? I don't know. Whatever. But I thought that was a little confusing. I don't know who was saying that, what that was being said for. But we get off into the Giants fighting, and surprisingly, it's at Chopper's area, okay? So Kashi, who was sitting next to Gabon and Chopper, he starts getting attacked, and he's going through the problem that I said probably wouldn't be a problem anymore, right? He's in fear of attacking his friends. Now, I guess I overlooked the fact that the people who don't know how to solve Dome Reverse are still faced with this dilemma, which is fine, it's cool. But after you're not faced with this dilemma anymore, that's when things start to become weird, because, well, you don't have to feel like this anymore. Now you can just cut people freely, right? So he's refusing to hurt his friends, and you know, we're left off there with the imminent attack, and we go back to Dorian Broggy and Haruden. They're all attacking different giants in one blow, crushing them, getting them out of here, okay? And they're hitting them with fatal blows. The weird thing about this is, again, like I said in my previous video, the fatal blows were originally thought to have been, or they were supposed to be coded in Supreme King Haki, right? Now, we got all these characters attacking giants without any haki in their attacks whatsoever. So Zoro's here, and I know a lot of people would say, oh, but Zoro is said to have he's leaking Supreme King haki all the time. So now you can't use that as an argument, because he's not using haki in his attack. You don't see any visuals for haki in his attack. And you can't assume that everybody else is all of a sudden leaking haki, right? They're leaking Supreme King too. So the problem I'm saying is, why is everybody now who's Dome Reverse able to get defeated without the Supreme King haki being coded over their weapons, or a mass of it being used on their attack? All that we're seeing are fatal blows. We're just seeing fatal blows straight up, point blank, period. There's no haki mixed in any of these attacks. And somebody even says terrifically fatal stuff, right? There's no haki. We didn't see one lightning bolt of haki, okay? And Zoro, like I said, he could have been the exception, because we know that he's leaking Supreme King haki all the time. But when you see the other people next to him and him himself not having any black lightning next to him while he's doing this attack, which is the indicator for haki, we should all come to the conclusion that they're not using haki, right? So it's a little inconsistent still, like I was saying before. It's inconsistent, the fact that they don't need haki now. And we go to Chopper. They're telling Kashi to hurry up. You got to attack, man. You got to fight back. He doesn't want to. He's about to get Dome Reversed or killed or attacked or whatever. He's about to let it happen because he's too afraid to hurt his comrades, right? Chopper, and he eats a rumble ball, and he smacks one of the giants in the face, okay? As hard as he can. As hard as he can. And then, to our surprise and Chopper's surprise, The attack that didn't even hurt, as the giant said, that didn't even hurt. Yahahaha, right? You see the shadow of, I guess, what was the dark spirit possessing him, right? Maybe it's not a spirit, an individual spirit, but regardless, we see this shadow-like form, which is representing the Dome Reverse, being peeled from his body after Chopper hit him. And then the guy falls out and gets flipped over, turns back to normal. Now, before I say this, before I explain, like, or try to speculate about what the hell Chopper just did, let me just say this real quick. I like the fact that I got to see Chopper finally in his full size next to another giant, because he's a little taller than Kashi, and I've been wanting to see Chopper and Giant Luffy next to other giants so I can see how big they actually are. And it seems like Oda is just keeping it straight 1-to-1. A giant is a giant. Luffy, his giant form is as tall as other giants. Chopper's giant form is as tall as other giants. So this is a question I've been wanting to kind of have answered indirectly or directly, and now I finally see it. But anyway, Chopper hit him with a regular attack. Now I know immediately people are going into probably the idea of his devil fruit being the cure-all, right? He is the cure-all because his devil fruit was shaped like a mushroom and so on and so forth, blah, 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 right? But I think it could be something much more simple and direct, okay? I think, well, I'm sure a lot of other people think this too, right? So let me just say that first. But the idea of the human fruit, right? Turning these people back human. Yeah, they're giants, but they're just giant humans, right? Exactly. So, and humanity and being a human it doesn't always just mean that one thing, okay? In a sense, Chopper is human because he has intelligence. He has this humanity about him, right? He has all the things that humans have, but he's like an animal, right? So just being human doesn't necessarily mean you don't look like a fish man and you're not giant, right? It can encompass other things, other essences, the other essence of what it means to be a human, right? So the idea of Chopper's devil fruit turning people who were no longer themselves back into normal, or turning people who are no longer human back into human, that's possibly like the biggest reason, the sole reason for why this was able to happen. It's not any magical cure-all fruit. Chopper didn't use any haki. The blow was not fatal, right? So even with this new rule being implemented that you can hit them with a fatal blow, we know Chopper did not do that. So it has to be something about him in particular, and it's definitely involved with his devil fruit being a human fruit. Maybe I can't say that, like, maybe if you touch a human you become normal, but that wouldn't make sense. But I think it's related to the essence within him, like the nature of his devil fruit and his haki, the human will, right? It's like his human spirit has purified these people. That's what I think. It's something like that. That's what I think. His human spirit has purified these people. He touched him, and the devil inside of him was rejected, right? That's what I'm getting from this. Chopper touched a man, and the devil inside of that man was rejected. It rejected Chopper, I should say, right? One or the other. It reeled back from this human essence, right? That's the kind of idea I think is being shared with what Chopper just did. So let's go on forward, right? The Owl Library. We're seeing Zeus eating a bunch of black balls that Nami's feeding him so she can make him stronger. And we go over to here. So this is something I was mentioning earlier. So these guys do not have Supreme King Haki. Gaban just told them you can only hurt these guys. Look, now maybe semantics has to come into play, right? Because did he say you can only hurt them like this? But either way, we were led to believe that you needed the Supreme King Haki to hurt these people. This is how you prevent them from regenerating, right? So how do three people who don't have Supreme King Haki, How do they end up separating his body parts in the first place without the rapid regeneration taking effect? That's a little inconsistent, if you ask me, right? How is that even possible? You see all body parts are still alive, like he's a skeleton or like some zombie gag, right? But how in the world did they separate his body in the first place without it regenerating off rip? If Sanji kicked, and this is crazy because I said, yo, is Sanji just gonna kick Killingham's head off? Lo and behold, it seems like that's exactly what he did. He kicked his head off, and somehow he didn't regenerate in time, right? I don't know. Maybe these three secretly awakened Supreme King Haki after they left from Gabon, right? I don't know. I need some more answers around this whole thing because we're seeing people who aren't even Supreme King level doing damage to Killingham now. So can you just damage them in general, right? But if you're quick enough, you can separate their body if you just cut them with a regular knife, right? I don't know. There's too many questions about it now. I thought it was more consistent, but it hasn't been. Okay, if I'm being honest, it hasn't been. Like it's so confusing to me. It's so confusing. Why can Killingham get his head and torso separated and like it couldn't regenerate in time? Doesn't make sense. But anyway, let's go on forward. So yeah. Oh yeah, also, right? Sanji kind of acknowledges the fact that they didn't even use Supreme King Haki. He says supposedly there's a way to finish them off, right? This is what he's saying. Supposedly there's a way to finish them off. They even wonder, like, yo, are these really the Holy Knights? Are these guys that weak? Frankie said, no, we're just too strong, Sanji. Our captain is a emperor now, right? And Sanji said, yeah, I'd like to believe that, but whatever, it's sickening. Killingham seems like he has something up his sleeve, but maybe he's just talking shit. I don't know. Let's not think too much about what he said, because sometimes characters might say something like that, like, oh, you think you can beat me, even though they're already half beaten? They're just talking, right? That's to him saying the things he wants to say. He's insulting people. He's, you know, he's cocky, whatever, right? So we got Zeus, Nami, and the rest of the crew finally meeting Luffy and Loki. Okay, and everybody's surprised at the size that Loki is and all of that, except for Nami. Nami's just yelling, "Are you guys idiots?" Right? They're getting yelled at so hard, so loud that Luffy is getting thrown back. Ratatouille's scared on Zeus, not Zeus, on Loki's back. Ratatouille's scared, right? And Luffy makes the Luffy sad face. This is really funny, right? And he gets mad at Loki because he got scolded. Loki, who also kind of just took the scolding, is mad that he got scolded, and he shoots Luffy with lightning. The lightning doesn't do anything to Luffy because he's rubber. I don't know why I don't know why Oda did this gag, maybe to just like let this fact be introduced to Luffy, that, you know, that Loki's, my bad. Maybe he wanted the fact that Luffy is immune to lightning to be introduced to Loki, right? That's what he was doing. Outside of that, there was really no other purpose to that scene other than it being a funny gag, right? So we get into the part of the chapter where Usopp is giving off all of his heroics. He's speaking about how you're a coward. You need to fight them directly. You're trying to do this to a nation of warriors. Like, why don't you have some pride and fight them directly? Imu says, a king does not dirty their own hands. I don't fight directly. I do this. This is how I fight, right? Usopp, giving his last stand, tries to shoot off a skull blast, grass blast in Imu's face. And Imu speeds up to him and grabs the bomb, and it explodes in front of him and Brook, and they're both laid out. Now, this made Luffy mad. Now, let's talk about this for a second. Oda, recently, I think they did a popularity poll for the characters, and Luffy was like not at the top 3. Okay, he was like 4 or 5. And Oda was kind of disappointed that his main character was getting usurped by other characters, like mainly Zoro being above him, right? Stuff like that. So Oda didn't like that. He said, okay, you guys like Zoro a lot. I think I need to give Luffy a cool ass moment in this upcoming chapter. Now, this is what I think he was talking about. We're about to see Luffy for the first time angry as Nika. He's been a little more serious as Nika before, slightly, but mainly like when we seen him with Vegapunk, and Vegapunk was dying, he had like a comedic reaction to it. His eyes are popping out his head. Yeah, he buckled in and locked in, and he was angry for him, but he didn't look angry, right? He was angry for him, but he didn't look angry. He didn't really feel like an angry Luffy. He was still smiling. He was still kind of carefree, bouncing around, surprised. Oh, did he just die? Oh shit, Sanji, take him to the ship. This time, it seems like he is really gonna be serious the whole fight. He's actually pissed off, like as he says to Loki too. He says, "I'm pissed off," right? So we get to the final panel of Loki and Luffy confronting Emu. Emu says that this battle will divide the world. This is a fight that Emu has been, I guess, already knowing would happen one day. It's like a convergence point. Like everything's converging here on Elbaf, right? All of the keys to history, all the little keys that we got. Luffy, the sun god. We got an ancient giant and the legendary Needhog fruit, which was most likely the same exact devil fruit that we saw on the mural of Elbaf, the Harley mural, right? So there should be no more question or speculation about that for the most part, right? But let's just put everything out here, okay? I just talked about the whole chapter. The Needhog fight and Luffy fight will be something that divides the world. Now, a lot of people think that the mural in that third world, or they think that the two worlds that were mentioned the first time, they think one of them is happening now. That's not how that works. The third world is the one that has yet to happen on the mural, because it's the current one we're living in now. It's developing right now, okay? So the third part of that mural will be what we're seeing happen, what we're gonna see happen in the entirety of the story, like the whole war that's gonna happen with probably the whole Straw Hat Grand Fleet and everybody else that Luffy has inspired to like stand up. Revolutionary Army is gonna be involved in that giant war. Sabo, Kobe, Mihawk, Buggy, the fucking Cross Guild, everybody, right? That is what's gonna be that's the final mural. That's what the final mural was referring to. The final world in the mural was referring to, right? The idea of this world, this current world, having another big event that quote unquote splits the world, that ends the world, right? Because I said it before, ending the world doesn't necessarily mean the world is just over, right? Before creation comes destruction, okay? It's the beginning after the end. So the same thing with the idea that Rox had, that he wants to destroy the world. It's so he can give birth to a new one, because the current world is the one that Emu rules. The darkness rules, right? The devil rules the world currently, right? So to destroy that, to make a new one, you gotta destroy this current one, okay? And Luffy being so serious here, I think we're gonna see him express his Nika powers in a way we have not seen before, especially if my speculation earlier was correct with how Gunko Emu can just summon objects out of thin air with Haki-like magic, right? Because Haki, like I said before, Haki, since it's your spirit, your willpower, it's your mental energy, it's all that stuff combined, your spirit, right? It's a part of you, it's a part of your soul, right? So of course there's emotions in Haki, there's memories in Haki, there's feelings in Haki, right? There's all sorts of power that that are attached to Haki because it's a part of you as a human. It's a part of your soul, your spirit. It's your essence, right? So with Haki being that, and the way that Gunko Imu summons these books and these guns out of thin air, I think that's the higher power of Haki that we're seeing being displayed, right? The height, the extent of Haki. Same thing when Luffy and Oda said that he opened the gateway to the Nika fantasy, and we see Luffy just pulling goggles out of his hair and making stuff out of thin air. I think if he sees Imu doing that, Luffy might have some sort of comment or response to that. He might even think of doing something himself. He might pull out 2 guns. Who knows? He might pull out 2 cannons because he sees Imu summon a gun. He might say, "Fuck, I'm gonna summon a shield or something," right? It might happen. And I'm looking forward to seeing next chapter because Luffy is actually angry. That's like the biggest thing for me now, because I just thought about that after reading this chapter. The fact that Luffy has never gotten actually mad as Nika, that's amazing. Okay, that's pretty good, because now we're about to see it. We're about to see it. He might go crazy. He might have Loki shoot lightning on purpose so he can grab the lightning straight out of Loki's mouth, right, and start hitting Imu with it. Who knows? And then now we know that all it has to be is a fatal blow, right? All you need is a fatal blow. You don't really need to use your Supreme King Haki, it seems like. So Luffy's definitely gonna be doing some wild shit in this next chapter. Okay, and I feel like I've been ranting a little bit at some point, but hey, this is what this is for. I'm giving my thoughts about the chapter, okay? And since I'm at the 20-minute mark, I'll hurry up and talk about Chopper again real quick, because I feel like what I was saying earlier with your Haki being a part of you, and how Luffy's Haki has changed. His Haki is, it's a little different because he's turned into the Nika fruit. He's using the Nika fruit. So his Haki's changed. I think Chopper with the Rumble Ball, his Haki changes too. More closely representing the nature of his fruit, right? It's like his devil fruit alters the color of his Haki, the shape of his Haki, right? Same thing with Luffy. I've seen a lot of different sorts of Haki flashes and shit with his white dawn attacks, right? He's making stars and stuff. His Haki's just become enhanced in general and stronger because of this transformation with his Zoan fruit, right? It's always the Zoans too, because they change you internally. So I think with Chopper, I kind of said it earlier, but I think it's something along the lines of that, honestly. Him having this Rumble Ball, in which I've equated the Rumble Ball to the Sulong transformations, because I made a video. It sounds way more rantish than this one, I'll just let you know right now, but I made a couple of good points, I feel like. But I made a video a couple months back called Chopper the Blue Nose Reindeer, okay? Does he have magic or something like that? That was my video, and it was a lot of ranting in there, but within that video I started mentioning how Chopper's Rumble Balls work with the Sulong minks, right? Because he can give Beppo, who's a mink, he can give Beppo a Rumble Ball, and it activates the Sulong transformation, right? Chopper is, as far as we know, he's not a Sulong. He's just an animal. He was a deer in the forest on Drum Island, right? Now, yeah, maybe we can get some deeper explanation about his devil fruit. Somebody put it in front of him on purpose and had him eat it, right? And that could be like a deeper part of the backstory, like, oh, he didn't actually find it on an accident. Some stranger just randomly put it in front of a deer to see what would happen, right? He put it in front of that animal and actually influenced him to eat it. Little did Chopper know, because he was a deer, right? Something like that. But anyway, let me get back on track with the Sulong thing, because this is the last point I think I'm going to make in this video. So Chopper's Rumble Balls worked on him similar to the Sulong people did. And then, like, Chopper's not a Sulong though. He's just a human. I mean, he's just an animal who turned human, quote unquote, right? So I think the nature of his existence being a human who's like part animal is enough to support that connection to the Sulong. Because if you look at Hody Jones, who also underwent something similar to a Sulong transformation with his white hair and red eyes and all that, right? By eating these, he consumed the drug to do that, right? Same way Chopper did. So I think that connection is very, very strong, because who else has white hair, a white form with red eyes? Nika, the sun god. And we know deers, in a lot of different mythologies and beliefs, they're derived from the sun. You know, they're of the sun, right? Maybe that connection to the sun god spreads throughout all Zoans. Or maybe it's some deeper connection with humans or something like that. I don't know. The sun god and the nature of humanity and like the brightness you can have as a human or some shit like that. I don't know. I'm speculating super far at that point, but I feel like there is a connection there between the Fishman having the white hair form, the Sulongs having that white hair form, and Chopper being able to use the same thing that enhances a Sulong with his own devil fruit in nature. The Rumble Ball activates him, turns him into this giant. That has nothing to do with being a human, all right? His devil fruit is the human fruit. What's human about becoming a giant monster, right? Something has to be, because he just touched a demon and turned him back to normal. But that's enough speculation, okay? I think I'm done here. I have to make a Boruto video, begrudgingly so. And I hope this One Piece video was pretty good, because I feel like I covered everything I needed to cover. The question of Dome Reverse and how consistent it has been, which it hasn't been, okay? Nico Robin on the cover panel. We got Chopper with the cure-all devil fruit, right? Luffy's getting angry. Usopp finally had his shine, okay? Usopp finally had his shine. Okay, one more thing, right? The giant sword, this is random too, it has nothing to do with this chapter in particular, but the giant sword stuck inside the tree of Elbaf might still belong to Loki. When I saw how big it was compared to Loki's regular form, I said, okay, well, you know what, maybe that's not his sword. But now that he's Needhog, that could very well be his blade. That could be his sword entirely, okay? Needhog could hold that sword, and it would look normal for him. Like, don't you think? But anyway, that's enough out of me. If I think of anything smarter to say, all right, any more speculation, any more ideas, any more theories, anything I missed, I'll put it in the comments below. But until then, I'm sick and I need to stop this video. I'll see y'all around.